Welcome back, everybody. Before we continue, I would like to tell you about the fundraiser that we have just started. It is live on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram accounts. The fundraiser is called Macedonia 2025 High-Tech Kids Camp All Year Round. We believe that given the right tools and support, kids will grow professionally to reach their potential and become good and engaged citizens, ready for the future of jobs and skills. 100% of the proceedings from this fundraising campaign will be supporting programs for enhancing coding and robotics skills. Macedonian youth from underprivileged backgrounds, coming from low-income families, ethnic minorities, and those living in rural areas, have no means nor opportunities to develop skills in the fields of coding and robotics. Urgent action is needed to stop the vicious cycle and lift young people out of poverty in the future. Donate now, and Macedonia 2025 will provide one-to-one matching to the funds donated in the first 3 days, starting today up until the 21st of November. Facebook will provide matching to the funds donated on Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. The campaign runs until the December 31st, 2021. Thank you so much. And now I would like to introduce the second panel, Technologies for Combating Climate Change, Lifestyles for a Greener Future. And I'd like to give the floor to the moderator, Mihail Mateski. He's a member of the Advisory Board of Macedonia 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Galena. Good afternoon to all of you. Good morning to some of you who are following online from the States. And good evening to the ones following from Australia. It's a great pleasure to host again an environmental panel, which is, environment is one of the pillars of also our platform for a brighter future, for a more prosperous future from our organization Macedonia 2025. And today we have some great speakers, guests. We have the Minister of Environment and Physical Planning, Mr. Nasser Nuredini, Ms. Alexandra Anić-Vucinic, the head of the Department for Environmental Engineering in the University of Zagreb, Mr. Nikola Ljušev, the CEO of Makedonski Telekom, and Mr. Goran Jovanovski, the founder of AirCare, IT consultant, and eco-activists. I will start with the panel, since we are discussing about combating climate change, about where we are. If you have seen previously on the country dashboard that our organization and Nikica has presented, unfortunately for us, environment, where we stand as a country, Macedonia, we are on the 14th place out of 18 country peers. So we are practically almost at the end. And of course, we cannot be happy. There is a slight improvement, 2 positions from since 2018 to 20, but we definitely need to move on much faster. So what's going on? Combating climate change is definitely becoming a more hot topic. We just had last week the United Nations Climate Summit, the COP26, and we have also some targets that we as a country have already agreed on to cut the emissions by 51% by 2030. We had also the speech of our President Pendarovski, where he noted that international financing depends on effective, functional, and just governance, and we have to deal with that as well. We have the requirements for fossil fuel phase out, and also very important, the coal power plants shut down by 2028. In the same time, we have in EU, we have the CO2 tax and the carbon pricing. We will soon, in several years, 2024, face the EU carbon border tax, and the aim by EU to cut the emissions by 55% of 2030. We have also the Green Deal and Green Agenda, which is the economic and investment plan for the West Balkans. And the Sofia Declaration with the carbon neutral requirement for the West Balkan countries to be carbon neutral by 2050. So in that regards, I will start our panel and discussion with our minister, Mr. Nuredini, and I took some extracts from your biography, and you are an interesting example of what the organization 2025 stands for, meaning born in Macedonia, raised in Belgrade, then moved to Vienna. You completed higher education later on in the United Kingdom, dealing with finance, investment, etc. And then recently you came back to Macedonia and took the position of Minister of Environment and Physical Planning. So I would start the panel with more like a personal question to you. Did your coming back to Macedonia meet your expectations?
Sorry. First of all, thank you for inviting me to the panel today. We're co-panelists, and that's a very interesting question, to be honest with you, expectations. I don't think people should have expectations when they join a government position. And I'd like to just clarify one thing. I did not take the position, but luckily I was offered the position. It wasn't a hostile takeover in that sense. No, the expectations are were they. First of all, it's a great honor. It's an absolute honor to be able to represent your country. It's a great honor to try and contribute towards a better standard of living for your citizens. However, at the same time, I was very well aware it's going to be a huge challenge. I think, unfortunately, you mentioned the ranking earlier. We were number 16 in 2018. Now in 2021, we're 14, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some of it is my contribution to it, so it's good. I've been here for 2.5 years. Listen, I think my white hair shows the expectations I had. I had a full set of black hair when I came. I've gotten a lot grayer. There's a lot of challenges. There's not enough time in the day to try and achieve everything we want to do. The expectations were what they were. I was realistic. We knew where we stood. Unfortunately, you're right. In the past, we haven't paid enough attention to the environment. There's a lot of aspects we haven't thought about. We haven't thought about where we're going. We forget the amount of consumption we actually have today. We also need to realize that the institutions need to do a lot more. Reforms, policy changes, intersectorial collaboration. At the same time, though, we need to start looking at ourselves as well as individual citizens. We are the key driving force as a citizen. It is me as Nasser who selects his waste or not. So it's all of us. So I didn't actually see it as expectations. I saw it as challenges, and maybe the challenges were a bit bigger than I expected.
Yeah. Thank you. I would just like to remind the audience in the room and also the audience online that raise questions, because the second half of this panel we will use those questions to discuss them with our speakers. So, Mr. Noureddini, the first official, let's say, question would be, what are the short and mid-term actions and strategy by the Ministry of Environment in combating climate change?
The climate change, we have to be, I'm going to be very open, since we're going to hold more of an informal discussion here. I think we should be quite clear about this. We are a small country. We are in the Balkans. We're going to do our part, of course, but this is a global issue. It's not just our issue. The question is, how do we do our part? And we're obliged to do our part because our part is going to actually have effects on our life and our costs of living tomorrow. We were one of the first countries that actually passed in or handed in our NDC to the Paris Agreement. It was a very ambitious one. As you mentioned earlier, it's going to be a decrease of 51% of the greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 compared to 1990, which is a net value of 82. We have passed our long-term strategy on climate change. We have prepared our law on climate action. We have not passed it yet in government, and this is also a question I know was remarked by the EU in regards to why have we not passed the law, but there's a reasoning behind that. We've had the law ready for a while, by the way, but the idea is to harmonize it and get all the institutions on board. We shouldn't be passing laws just for the sake of passing laws. It is very important that we actually harmonize our laws together with other institutions, because the law on climate action is actually going to affect transport, health, education, everything else. So it's very important we actually prepare ourselves for the law, because just passing it's a great feeling when you hear it's passed in Parliament, but we don't want to have them catching dust. So within our strategy, we've actually identified 63 different measures. These are mid-term, short-term, and long-term. The short-term ones that we need to be working on is, of course, the energy and energy efficiency. Those are the key things, and the mobility of our fleet. Unfortunately, we have some of the oldest mobility of cars in Europe. On average, unfortunately, by the time when I started, we used to say 16 and a half years, 17 years. Now we're actually going on average over 19 years. So the idea is to actually get our new reforms out there and policies together with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Interior, who does the technical checks, and subsidize the electric mobility. The idea is actually to take away the VAT for electric cars, partially take away the VAT for hybrids and plug-ins. The other one is, as you've probably heard, the Ministry of Finance is putting up a fund together, I believe it is with EBRD, for energy efficiency. This will be supporting the municipalities to invest in energy efficiency. Because the key challenge, as we all know, and we should be aware, when it comes to climate change, is the question of energy. How do we solve the energy question? As you all know, we are a country which produces over 60% of our electricity with coal. Hence why you said earlier, when we're dedicated to decommissioning Bitola by 2028, latest by 2030, but our plan is 2028. However, though, there is a key challenge in there which none of us should ever forget. It's the just transition of the employees working in that sector. We have quite a few thousand people working there. It's easy to say we'll shut it down, but we have to have a plan to re-educate, reallocate, retrain these people working in that sector by the time we decommission it. Hence, that's why with the strategy that we have in place, we're going to be creating 8,000 to 10,000 new jobs. This is the idea to actually move them to those new jobs while producing renewable, using sustainable energy production. And I see that my time's up. And I think that's why it's very important that time is running out for climate change as well. That's why the actions need to be taken.
You're right. Thank you. We shall be moving to Alexandra Anić-Vucenić. Alexandra we are friends and colleagues in the industry, waste management for years, so I will address her by first name, Alexandra. And for the audience, Alexandra is the head of Department of Environmental Engineering at the Geotechnical Faculty in the University of Zagreb. PhD in science, but what is more important, she participates from the early beginning in the establishment and implementation of the Environmental Fund in Croatia, which, as a reference, they have a 200 million euro annual budget, which is taken through eco taxes, put back in the waste management, in the pollution, etc. She will explain about a little bit of that. And she's also the president of the Croatian Association for Waste Management, HUGO, which is a member of the International Waste Management Association. So, Alexandra, first of all, thank you for joining and traveling. It took the effort. She came, and we really appreciate your presence here. And I will start with the first question for you. Based on the experience in Croatia, how can we speed up the development of the waste management system in Macedonia as one of the contributors in the greenhouse gas emissions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy that I'm almost after 2 years back in Skopje, and I have lots of dear friends here. I'm glad to participate in this summit. So if my experience or experience from Croatia can contribute to speed up the changes we all need to do, then I'm happy to be here. Now I want to answer you the question. The waste management sector contributes around 6% in climate changes through the gas emissions from the landfills. We had that situation where you are now. We were in 2006, the same as you. We started then to negotiate with EU on a Chapter 27, and they forced us to make changes. Primarily, these changes were forced toward landfills due to climate changes. It was the first reason. So what we did in that period, that means it was 16, 17 years ago, we were forced to do two things parallelly. The one was to make a sanation of the landfills, and the second one was to establish new streams of the waste, not only for climate changes, but also due to raw materials, saving the raw materials. So they forced us as a new potential member to introduce circular economy, which we are grateful now because now we are in advantage if we compare other countries, even in EU. So the first step, what we did, beside make assignations from the landfills, we had it in 2006. We had it something around 700 without any protection. So all the methane, everything was went to the air. And now we have something about 100 landfills that are controlled. We are picking up the methane, producing electricity, or treating that gas. The second step, or the parallel step, was to introduce special waste category streams. That means we introduced EPR system, but on that time it was the system that was controlled by the state. So we established a fund, and the first rule book we introduced was deposit system. In 3 months, when we introduced that, in 3 months we had clear country. Now our efficiency through all these years is between 84 and 91%. That means that everything what we put on the market, almost everything we collect. And something else happened. I see my kids are doing that, I'm doing that. When we come in the country where is no deposit system, we cannot throw away the bottle because it is a value. After that, we had a great success, and in that field, Croatia also has lots of problems yet, but in that field we are very successful, and we established all the other streams. So if we talk about vehicles, we have also a special waste stream for the vehicles. We are collecting 40,000 tons per year, recycling 95% of the vehicles, recycling bottle-to-bottle PET through the deposit system, aluminum cans recycling. So,
thank you, Alexandra. We will move now to Mr. Ljušev, the CEO of Telecom. No need for special introduction. He's our regular and always welcome speaker and panelist. Mr. Ljušev, my question for you would be, how technology, since you're coming from a telecom company, how technology is affecting the climate change, positive or negative way?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and thanks for having me in among this distinguished round of panelists. As a technology aficionado, you know, it's a question that always provokes certain emotions to me to speak about technology, how technology relates to climate change. And I had a couple of speaking engagements recently when I was speaking about 5G, about artificial intelligence, about Internet of Things. And my closing remarks always was in direction that technology, in my humble opinion, could be our probably very last chance to save our planet, our single human habitus. Because I don't believe that we are going to change the behavior in terms of sell our cars and we will not travel, or we are going to, you know, reduce our electricity consumption, or that we are going to, you know, reduce the waste that we are producing. I'm not that naive. I believe strongly that technology can provide us means how to more efficiently use our resources that we have, and at the same time, thinking out of the box, give us solutions to create negative emissions of carbon dioxide, either by capturing the CO2 and other means, in order to hopefully reverse the trend that we are seeing at this very moment. And I was surprised this morning when I was looking at the data, despite all these declarations in COP26 and so on about reduction, Paris Agreement, you know, 5-6 years ago as well, we are not reducing the consumption of emission of carbon dioxide. Quite contrary. The first year when we had kind of slight of drop was 2020 of 6%, and it was a COVID thing. Now, 21, the estimate is that we are going to return to pre-COVID situation. So we haven't seen still the tipping point, and yet we are yet to see the turnaround. It looks very far away from current perspective. And regretfully, in the last couple of centuries, we have pretty badly damaged our planet from the industrial times and onwards. And I truly believe that modern technologies like Internet of Things, like 5G, connectivity, artificial intelligence are going to help us, are the tools in our hands to reverse the trend that we are having at this very moment. There is a huge promise around it. It's up to us whether we are going to use it. My humble opinion is that we are far away from reaching the targets. For the time being, we are just seeing declarations, no tangible action plan, no tangible moves forward. But again, as I said from the very beginning, I believe that technology holds the promise of being our very last resort to save this planet.
Yeah, I'm sure that, thank you, and I'm sure that our next speaker, Goran Jovanovski, will agree with that. So Goran, as I said, he is a founder of AirCare, IT consultant, eco-activist, very interesting biography for a young man, educated here first, then moved to Netherlands, got computer science engineering degree, Master of Software Engineering in the University of Amsterdam, then worked for Booking.com, right? Involved in the eco movement in Macedonia as an activist and created also the AirCare application. So, Goran, I would like you to present first in this first round of questions for you to present the AirCare application, and I would like to have it, we have a PPT presentation going on, so please.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, first of all. Very glad to be here. Very short for those of you that probably haven't seen this app. I've been bugging people here locally for 7 years with this data. But as we already talked about, we are facing a climate crisis. What we say, we can call it climate change, but I'm worried at this point it's a crisis, and we are facing a crisis as a planet. And part of this crisis is air pollution, because 9 out of 10 people in the world are exposed to air pollution over safe limits. And over 7 million will die every year from exposure to air pollution. And this is a huge number. We're a country of 2 million. Imagine that. That's like what? That's 3.5 Macedonias. That's a lot of people. And unfortunately, this is even a picture of Skopje in the background. I can assure you the city is there, but you can't see it in winter because of all what we used to call the smelly fog. And because of all of these things is why I decided to create AirCare. AirCare is a mobile app that tracks air pollution through a very simple and intuitive interface. What we do is we draw data, we aggregate data that belong to government sensors that are placed around the country, volunteer sensors, university sensors, and even satellite data from the European Space Agency. We take all of this data together, we put it in a single app in your pocket, in the palm of your hand, that lets you know exactly what the air quality is outside and exactly what you are breathing. And this is very much important for everyone that wants to know, is it safe to go outside and take a jog? Should I walk my dogs, or should I maybe stay at home and turn on the air purifier because outside is not good? So yes, we created the app back in 2015 as a pet project. I was a student, it was winter, and I wanted to teach myself how to make apps. This was not the plan. It was not the plan for the app to go viral like this. It was not the plan to start the app to start a movement, but I'm more than happy to be part of this movement because this is doing something positive, and this is a way for me as a software engineer to give back to the community through technology, as we spoke before. I'm super happy that the app that started very teeny tiny small at this point has reached 1.8 million unique users around the world. Macedonia used to be our biggest market because this is where we started off. It went off to Serbia, and right now the US is even our biggest market because they have a lot of problems with wildfire. So we're trying to educate the whole world about air pollution and what is going on there. We're super happy that more than 100 media mentions from Forbes, BBC, Google, NASA, the UN. We even have our own TED Talk and over 20 awards from a national and international level. And this is kind of my message even to other people, to the youth. Doesn't matter that we come from a teeny tiny small country that not a lot of people know where to put the pin on the map. We can do this, and we can do this through technology. We've gotten government action, green policies and subsidies being introduced, public awareness has been risen, and we even have corporate action where polluters are being outfitted with filters to stop air pollution from happening. So I invite all of you to be part of the solution to pollution. Get the app, check the air quality outside, and let's stop pollution, hopefully once and for all.
Thank you, Borjan. I just want to say that I'm already using your app for about 6 months. What I also really like is that you have that possibility for recycling, which is my business. And I like that you have positioned the Pacomac containers throughout the city for separate collection of glass, plastics, and cardboard. So it's really great also supporting that part of the
It's going to be a
recycling
platform.
habit and changing
Exactly.
the lifestyles of the people. Thank you. Mr. Noureddini, how can we speed up the development of our waste management system as one of the contributors in the greenhouse gas emissions? As Alexandra said previously, it's estimated that around 6% of the gas emissions are contributed by the waste management.
We need to make a very straightforward difference between the other countries and where we are and the neighboring countries. First of all, I'd like to happily announce, I'm sure you all have heard, we passed 6 new laws on waste management recently. Something we've been working together with a lot of the stakeholders, and we managed to pass them. Now, this is the basis. First, you need to start with the reforms of the policies. Second of all, we also need to be very realistic, and as I said earlier, unfortunately, we need to realize that we lack the infrastructure in our country to dispose of our waste. As the dear panelists here mentioned earlier, we have certain active EPR scheme members, such as Pacomac, and they are active. They're trying to put the containers on the market. At the same time, though, we need to be very also open about it, that the producers are not paying much of a contribution to the EPR scheme. Now, based on the new laws, we're actually going to redefine that and put a more strict control on the producers and whether they have an agreement with the EPR scheme, and whether they actually contribute paying to the selection of waste and collection of the selected waste. On the other hand, we also need to accept the fact that when we as a country did the decentralization in 1992, that hygiene, water management will be managed through the municipalities. Unfortunately, we never reevaluated the cost of financing for the municipalities. We just left it. Over the last 30 years, we've had numerous, I think unfortunately one can say uncountable, illegal, non-regulated landfills in our country. Now we're trying to solve it. Try now. I know it's been spoken about it for years, but now we've actually taken, the idea was to have the laws in place, we've got the financing structure in place, we're finalizing the loans that we're going to be taking from an international finance institution, and we're going to build the basic infrastructure in our country. What does that mean? We're going to actually have internationally compliant landfills, not Rusinos and Valandovo or whatever the other ones are called. I apologize for not knowing the names. So we're going to do that. We're going to invest over 60 million euros in this to cover the Polog region, to cover the southwest, Pelagonia, Vardar, and the southeast region. The northeast and east region we are financing through the IPA funds. We've started, we're finalizing the documentation, will be tendered very soon. That alone, those 2 regions will cost over 40 million, but that is all-encompassing. And these other 5 regions I mentioned, we're going to finance, as I said, through loans. It means we're going to build a landfill, we're going to build transfer stations, we're going to buy trucks, we're going to buy containers. We're going to hand them over to the municipalities. And then the law will apply to the municipalities as it should have applied since 1992. We should not have allowed the municipalities to create illegal landfills. We also need the private sector and the industry to actually dispose of their waste appropriately. Because this, of course, as you said earlier, is contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. You mentioned it earlier, we don't have a single gas capture system in our country. All our landfills, not a single one of them have a gas capture system. Whether you generate electricity or you simply burn it to avoid emitting more gases, we don't have that. Not even Drizla has that. We have started applying for funds through the IPA funds in this case because Drizla is a lot larger, we'll need more investment. We are looking to add that facility to Drizla as well. These are this is the strategy in place. We have the laws in place, we have the financing model in place, and what we need to do, by the way, is very simple. We cannot politicize environment. We cannot have laws waiting for months and months and months in Parliament, which have nothing to do with political emotions or values. It's simple. We're harmonizing our laws with the EU standards, the EU directives. We want to improve the standard of living in our country, and they should not be hanging in Parliament. Unfortunately, I'll be very honest, it took us over 7 months to pass the laws on waste, and it shouldn't have been 7 months. This should have been within 2 months maximum. That's what we need to do.
I agree, I fully agree, and I think that also by our polls, always environment together with digitalization was always something that was not considered as politics. So I would agree that we have to move much faster in that direction. Thank you. Anna, Alexander, sorry, can you say that the deposit system for the bottles, aluminum cans, and the glass in Croatia was the game changer to achieve fast and tangible results?
Yes, as I told, it was the deposit system resulted so quickly with the obvious clean country, and that was the motor, the roller to implement all the other systems. If we were not so successful, then probably it would be much harder to implement all the other things that are painful and costly, as you said. The deposit system was the pin to speed up the issues in waste management. Don't think we have lots of waste, and we solve some problems and we are very good. We still have problems that we are fighting right now. What I would like to give a message to all of you, we made one very strong, very big mistake. Politicians, I have to say, I'm sorry, but they, in their election times, they claimed that waste management, separate collection, circular economy will be cheaper. Nobody explained, and then when we introduced the system, of course, it was not cheap. It was expensive. We have to raise the prices, and then there was a problem. But what I would like to use the opportunity to stress here that it is not cheaper. When we dump and landfill the waste, like the minister mentioned, all around the country, at the end, we have to pay that per ton from the tax from somewhere, and it is costly at the end. It is not from the smetka.
Bill.
Bill, yes. It is from the tax that we pay, and the waste management is costly, but it need to be done because we don't have two Earths, we have only one.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra.
Yes.
Mr. Ljushev, you had recently the Smart City project with the city of Skopje. And we have also a short video that we would like to have it in the back. So please tell us more about and explain about the Smart City project.
Smart City project with the capital, it's something that we have concluded at the beginning of the year. We implemented in a very short period of time, I would say in record period of time of 7 to 8 months. From the very beginning, despite the fact that the contract was stipulating 12 months, so we were fast. It's coming as a consequence of the tender that was initiated, if I'm not mistaken, a second or third time. So imagine that years before the city administration was trying to push this thing forward, but failed. Luckily, we managed this time. It's not the first project that we had with this scope, with this in this theme. Beginning of 2020, we had some successful projects in smaller municipalities in the eastern part of the country, Češinovo, Bleševo, Vasilevo, Makedonska Kamenica. We had also very successful project in Kriva Palanka. City of Skopje is definitely the biggest project. It's in amount of 6.5 million euro, VAT included value. It's a public-private partnership project where basically we invest. Then via the savings that are generated with this solution, practically the city administration is going to pay to us in the next 36 months the whole investment. What are the benefits of the project? Imagine the following. We have implemented close to 10,000 smart lighting based on a pole with controllers, with the SIM cards inside that are controlled from the central premises. We have managed to do it quite efficiently, quite quickly, alongside with a smart parking solution, alongside with the solution for air quality control. And we have already some initial results that are very promising. The saving in terms of electricity consumption is around 60%, or it's going to be eventually even higher than 60%. The city was consuming something like 10 million kilowatt hours per year for the lighting. And we believe that we will manage to drop the consumption and we are going to eliminate something like 6.5 million kilowatt hour energy, which is huge. And practically that's the way how this project is going to be financed. In terms of what does it mean for climate, we are speaking about something like close to 6,000 tons of CO2 annually, which is equivalent to 240,000 trees. The rule of thumb is that one tree, well-developed tree, is absorbing 21 kilos of CO2 annually. So it's a huge project. Big thank you to all our partners, also to the city administration, because they gave us trust in implementing this one. It brought it's going to bring a lot of benefits for the city. 60% reduction in the electricity consumption, 70% reduction in the maintenance. The lifespan of the lights is over 100,000 hours, which if it is converted in years, it's around 20 years with the normal usage. We are speaking about excellent rendering of colors. We are speaking about a very natural color of the light. It's not like these sodium vapor lights or mercury vapor lights that are, distorting the colors. It's contributing positively to the safety of the people, safety in the traffic, and so on and so forth. It gives opportunity for auto dimming, introduction of different lighting scenarios, where based on the specific circumstances, the city administration can adjust the consumption and the lighting in specific area.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great achievement, and let's see that also the other cities and towns in Macedonia will start to implement such projects. So before moving to Gorjan, I would just ask Galena to prepare the questions from the audience, and once we have completed the second round with Gorjan, we will have him discussed. So Gorjan, you mentioned that you had while implementing the app, you also had the cooperation here in the country and partnering with municipalities, with cities, etc. And how was the experience? Because we see that as a region, as West Balkans, it's the only way probably to move forward. So what was your experience in that regard?
Right. So it very much differs from place to place, from city to city, from municipality to municipality. Usually what I tell governments, not only ours, but the region's governments and everywhere that air care works, is we as activists are not a threat. We are a partner. We don't, I mean, we have this tendency when somebody criticizes us or somebody says, okay, you need to do this differently, we want to put up a defense mechanism. We should not. We should accept that we don't have to always be the smartest in the rooms. There are other people out there with solutions that if we cooperate together, we can find better solutions and we can tackle, in this case, air pollution, but anything else out there. So again, I've had positive experiences working with governments in the region. We've had fights with governments, for example, in Albania, where we can't get open data for air pollution. We've been begging them for years, open the data. And no, we only get yearly reports, which of course are not as useful. So we just need to understand that open data systems and collaboration in the region are critically important, because at the end of the day, here, for example, in Macedonia, we do have this problem of brain drain, right? We have the youth leaving. This is probably a Balkan thing, but especially here. And I think it's now more than ever important to start cooperating with the region, because, for example, I don't know, in Zagreb, there probably are great ideas that have been already put in place there. Can we learn? Can we just sit down on a table and say, okay, what do you guys think? What can we implement here? This, and this. Let's do it. Let's sit down, let's implement this. Let's not make this whole long bureaucratic process of trying to figure out, and then times run out, oh, the earth is on fire. Let's not wait for the earth to be on fire before we implement this. So, long story short, there is room for collaboration. I've seen this happen, and I'm more than happy to collaborate even more from this sector, but I would also love to see collaboration in the region, not just from activist groups that we already do collaborate, but also from governments to sit down and say, hey, look, anyway, we were one country long ago. How about we sit down again on a table and say, okay, everything else aside, all politics and borders aside, can we fix air pollution? Can we fix climate change? Can we fix water? That's my call to action from an institutional level.
Thank you, thank you. So Garena, let's go on with the questions from the audience, please.
Thank you, Mikhail. The first question is, what are the plans for driving a reduction in consumption of fossil fuels in North Macedonia, waste to energy in the industry? Yes.
I had a funny feeling it was coming towards me. Ash was hoping Gorian was going to actually compliment the Ministry of Environment as well, but he didn't. I think he should compliment the Ministry of Environment. Not me, by the way, the Ministry, though. Because when he first came, when I first met him 2 years something ago, he was one of his complaints, criticisms, was I think? Can we say criticism? Constructive criticism. Because that's the door is always open for constructive criticism, by the way, was that the measuring stations weren't working. I believe they're all working now, right? Every single one of them. We've added 2 more. We're adding another 2. So you'll have over 21 tomorrow to report with. Very highly sophisticated machinery, which unfortunately costs us over 150,000 euros per piece, but thankfully the EU pays for it. That's okay. In regards to fossil fuel and waste to energy. I know there's a lot of noise around waste to energy. Everyone's making a lot of noise. We have criticism, we have constructive criticism, we have supporters, and we have different approaches to it. Waste to energy is nothing new. Waste to energy is happening across the world. There's many of these facilities in Austria, there's many of these facilities in Germany, everywhere else across the world. Some people use it in the cemetery production. That's something we try to do with the company here. We're trying to actually create an accumulation of waste or create our own RDF for the cement industry in our country. We haven't reached that step yet, unfortunately. Decarbonization of our energy market is a key. As you know, the country is trying to invest across, especially in Skopje and other cities as well, in public transport, environmentally friendly transport. As I said earlier, the changing our car fleets to more environmentally friendly cars. I said electric, but at the same time, you've got to ask yourself the chicken or egg question. How do we produce our electricity? And we're trying to use electric cars. As long as we don't have more diversified source of energy production, we are not going to be decarbonizing any of our markets. So we're still going to produce even more electricity through coal. Actually, to be quite honest with you, lignite. Lignite is one of the weakest forms of energy sources that you can find, by the way, unfortunately. But that is what our legacy of our country is. So this is why this long-term strategy in our country is very simple. We need Chevron to be built. It's going to be very important. We can invest in solar, we can invest in wind, we can invest in a lot of other things. As long as we don't have a solution for storage, energy storage, we don't have a solution for renewable energy, because it is not constant and we cannot balance the grid. Hence why we will need Chevron in the long run. To build Chevron, Chevron will be functioning as a stabilizer, balancer for the whole grid. Furthermore, at the same time that we will, yes, and I know that everyone's part of Europe is trying to move away from gas, we are investing in gas. The reason why we're investing in gas is because it's very proven that it's a multiple lower air production producer of carbon in comparison to coal. We are investing in it. It's a transitional solution, because at the same time it solves the issue of air pollution in our country. As long as we don't have the change in, as I said, partially mobility, better standards for our industry, but however, one of the key drivers to air pollution, unfortunately, is the heating of our buildings. Not just houses, by the way, because I know there's been a lot of noise being made about the whole time. Yes, it's a fact. We all know that we heat with wood, with pellets, sometimes not with pellets which are compliant to the standards. We passed a bylaw recently that will regulate that better, so we don't have substandard pellets being used in our country. However, though, we also have, unfortunately, public buildings that we're heating with mazout, etc., etc. We have requested this in March this year already. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic and a lot of elections, we have a lovely country where we have elections every year, and somehow that stagnates everything, and the work doesn't get done, or the answers don't come back yet. We have requested that all the state institutions hand to us a list of all the buildings they operate and what they heat with. We've achieved the majority of it. We are going to be we have created a green environment fund, or a green fund as we like to call it. It will be sitting at the Prime Minister's office. It will be coordinated between the different institutions, and we will be investing in the change of heating through that. Furthermore, just something else I would like to point out is that we are the first country in the region, I believe, we're going to be placing green bonds on the market. Those bonds, those funds will only be used to be invested in environmentally friendly projects, or that will actually support the strategy on climate change and the better future, so to speak. I hope I didn't go too much around.
Thank you, Minister Nureddini. The next question is, does the organization you represent consider energy efficiency as a resource, a way to combat climate change? And do your premises hold a certificate for energy performance of buildings? This is for Mr. Lyushev and Minister Nureddini.
Nicola,
I think first go, really.
Yeah, okay. We are very much committed to use of green energy. Our data center that we have in the center of the city, we have 60 kilowatts installation on solar. Of course, unfortunately, it's not enough, so we are just offsetting a bit of the consumption that we are having. We intend to build a new data center with a large solar field with photovoltaics, and we intend these solar panels to be enough to practically produce green services, green magenta services, whatever color is it. With respect to certificates, yes, we are very much committed as a Deutsche Telekom group to use, starting from this year, only energy from renewables. That means buying energy at more expensive rates, regretfully. But as I said, this is something that we have committed towards our investors. It's part of our ESG agenda. And it's the most recent commitment that we took towards capital market.
Thank you, Mr. Lyushev. As we are running very late, we're gonna stop with the questions, even though there are many here. We can take a look at them later, maybe. So now I'm gonna thank you all so much.
Thank you, Garena. I will just briefly wrap it up here. We will, because there was not enough time. There was one great project shared by Alexandra with us from their university, and we will post it together with the presentations. It's a great thing that they achieved there. It's still a trial, but I think it will see the face of very, very recently. And as a final, I would say that we have now the Green Deal, the Green Agenda for the economic deal for the West Balkans, where practically from 2024 to 30 we will have available 9 billion euros as financing by EU, and another 20 billion as potential investments. So around 30 billion for the West Balkans. So I think that we should use it to expel. I mean, we should use it to build up all the infrastructure needed in renewables, in waste management, decarbonization. Those are the pillars, circular economy. And for this, we definitely need partnerships. So in that regard, we also, as an organization, Macedonia 2025, will be again available to the government. Also, me as one of the founders of the Macedonian Solid Waste Association, we want to build up partnerships because there are not many experts in the country. We want to make strong teams and move together. Experts, the businesses, the industry, together with the government and municipalities. So with this, I would like to thank our great speakers. It was a great panel. Thank you. And I would also like to announce that environment will be one of the key topics on our May summit, probably Ohrid, next May, 2022. So see you then all. Thank you again.